Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. My name is Henry Tyson. I am the Superintendent here at St. Marcus. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your faithfulness in coming back year after year and supporting the work that we do here at St. Marcus. Thank you to Bob Boss and Luis Rivera and those students. Weren't they absolutely awesome? I'd like to thank too Jacory. Jacory was 5th grade. He was like this tall when I got here. Boy, what a payoff to see boys like that grow into men like Jacory. What a gift. We rather embarrassingly missed one of our presenting sponsors at the beginning, and I don't want to do that, so I want to just take a minute to recognize Mark and Christy Jones. Mark and Christy, where are you? Help me out. Make some noise somewhere. Right here. Mark and Christy, thank you so much for your support and for being presenting sponsors here tonight. We so appreciate you. Let me start by just sharing with you the critical importance of these events, because I don't want you to feel like you're just coming to a fundraising dinner. It's far more than that. First of all, each year we set themes, and these themes become critical guiding influencers for me personally and for the entire school as we move through the year. And you may recall that last year the theme was Courage Now. And it sort of frustrates me when the development team comes up with these themes, because then we actually have to live by them. And I can't tell you how many times over the course of the year I have had the words of Joshua 1:9, which is our school-wide theme. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be terrified, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And that theme, and my hope and prayer is that tonight you don't go home just having had a good time, but that you walk away from it with this year's theme, Believe It Is Possible, deeply embedded in your mind and your heart, and that it changes the way that you personally live in the same way that it will change and has already changed the way that I live. The second critical aspect about this work is that, we've done 3 major campus expansions over the last decade, starting with this building you're in 2003. And every year it was galas that provided the energy and the enthusiasm and the finances to do those expansions. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen through the rest of this evening, but I'm absolutely confident that what you do here tonight will help set the course for where we go as we move forward. We have much to celebrate this year, and the celebration is in no small part thanks to many of you. We get to celebrate tonight that finally, after 5 long years through the Great Recession, this last year, since the last gala, we closed out the $13 million capital campaign. Thank you for making that happen. This last year, with the opening of the B. Bruce Creer Center, we completed the campus. And I believe with 730 children on this campus, there's not going to be any more building here. So as far as I'm concerned, the campus is now complete. Thank you for making that happen. Our next celebration is the reality that on Thursday of last week and on Monday, 730 children, from 3-year-olds to 14-year-olds, will walk through these doors. 730. Thank you for opening the doors to those students. And finally, just because some of you are very new, I need to mention that despite the growth and the expansion, the quality of what we do here has not been compromised. And we know, because we track our 8th graders for 8 years after they graduate, that 91% of our 8th graders will graduate from high school in 4 years or less. We know that our students continue to perform far above the averages here in Milwaukee, and oftentimes challenging suburban school districts and rural school districts. And so our students continue to perform on the state standardized test at an incredibly high level. I actually want to bring out, I'm hoping they're here, 3 young men who really epitomize the product here at St. Marcus. I'm hoping they're waiting in the wings. Come on out, gentlemen. Just hold your applause for a minute. Stand right up here at the front so we can see you. These young men, Tevin, Riley, Christian Flores, and Thomas Dadka, just finished their first quarter of their 8th grade year. Thomas actually was here in K4. I have a great picture where he's like knee-high. But these guys, highly unusual for any student at St. Marcus, let alone a boy, to maintain a 4.0 grade point average. These 3 guys all have a 4.0 GPA. Good work, guys. It's students like this who come out of this school and go on to become the next generation of people who are going to transform our city. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Keep up the great work. So, phenomenal things are happening, and again, like, I see you all out there, and I see individually the impact that you have had. It's not like a gimmicky thing to say. It's meant from the bottom of our hearts that you have come alongside us and helped us to believe that this is possible and that we can keep doing this. And so thank you for all that you do. That being said, I need to tell you that the last 5 months have possibly been my hardest since I've been in Milwaukee. And there are 3 particular things that have happened that are tragic and that I have to share with you tonight, because if we don't know it, we can't address it. And the first news came out back in April, oddly enough, from none other than the BBC, that I still keep in touch with. And the BBC on their website broke the story with this question: why does Wisconsin incarcerate so many black people? And it went worldwide. And it was then reported locally, and it was reported everywhere. But as I was reading on the BBC website, I couldn't believe that the thing that I was reading about, my home state, is that we incarcerate twice as many African Americans as the national average. That the national average is 6.8%, and for us it's just under 13%. And as I read that article, I moved on from the statistics and I started thinking about the impact on lives. And in particular, the impact on the lives of the children who are here, whose mothers and fathers are incarcerated. And obviously it's not all of them, far from it. But it touches way too many of our children, and it devastates the community. This is the reality that our state has to deal with. The second piece of news was not new news, it was repeated news for the 3rd or 4th year in the row, and it ran just on Thursday in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Perhaps you read it. And it was reported that the black students in Wisconsin are still the lowest performing students in the nation in any demographic. There is not one state where the African American students perform more poorly than they do in our state, which really means our city. And I just can't believe or accept that this is a reality. The other thing that so frightens me is that I know as well as you know that those 2 statistics are directly related. That if we don't educate the children, we give them very few options other than to end up in the penitentiary. The third news, it was certainly, for me personally, the most devastating. And it has rolled out over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And it pertains to a little tiff, a squabble that we had with the district and the city over a building named Malcolm X. Did you hear about this? Some of you are from out of town. Thank you, the Floridians and those from Arizona and California. Here's what happened in a nutshell. There's this school, St. Marcus, where the kids are blowing it away, where the success rate is phenomenal and everybody knows it. But there are waiting lists of hundreds of kids, and literally the waiting list, people say, how big's the waiting list? And I say it stops at 250, because once you got 15 kids on a waiting list for third grade, there's no point in signing up. And so the parents walk in the door and they walk right back out again, because there's not going to be space. So you've got this school that's just blowing it away, and the kids are succeeding like crazy in the city and the state that's having the biggest problem educating our kids. And there's a building 4 blocks north of here called Malcolm X, and it's been vacant for 6 years. And that building is just waiting. And we go to the city and we go to the state and we say, you know what? Without any public dollars, we'll fill that building with 900 to 1,000 kids, and they'll be high-performing kids, and we'll buy the building at fair market value. What do you say? No, 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 no. And so many of you have asked me about this, because so many people have been fascinated by how is it that it can happen that the powers that be in our city that is so desperate for high-quality education can turn away these kids and can slam the door in their face. You know what it did for me? I went through this period of time where I began to question whether or not it is possible. Like, is our system and is our city and is our government so broken that, yeah, we can serve these kids that we happen to have, but the idea of turning around our city and changing those abominable statistics is just not possible. And so I got into this depressed kind of stupor, which I know that I can't do because I'm sort of the organizational leader. So I turned to my source, one of my sources, second only to the Word of God, of input and insight, which is Sir Winston Churchill. And Sir Winston had 2 quotes for me, the first of which is just sort of humorous but helpful, and the second one is profoundly helpful. So the first quote, Winston was trying to keep the British people calm and said, don't worry, the Americans will come. And he said this, he said, quote, Americans will always do the right thing after they have tried everything else. So I thought, all right, well, that's good. Maybe the city government and MPS and the district is going to change their minds because they'll try something else and then we'll do the right thing. But the second quote was this. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. So I read that quote, and it literally hit me like a ton of bricks, and my mind zoomed back to last year's Gala, and I remembered the kids up on this stage singing the song, Courageous. And I said to myself, it's the courage to continue that counts. And then my mind flipped to this year's theme, Believe It Is Possible. And I literally said to myself, what is the connection between courage and believing it is possible? And my mind went to David and Goliath fame. And I had this image of David, not much bigger than these boys that were just up here, a young man who walked out onto that field and ludicrously shouted down Goliath. And what was it that gave him the courage to do that? It obviously wasn't his size, it wasn't his strength, it wasn't his weapons. It was one thing. That David believed that his God was bigger than Goliath's God, and that David's God had said that he would do it. So in that moment, I was humbled and I realized that yes, if we are going to turn this around, there are going to be some enormous difficulties and enormous obstacles. But if we have the faith in our God who has called us to this place and this time to do this work, and we believe that he is real and he is sincere, then we will have the courage to go out and do what needs to be done. So here's my challenge. Here's my challenge to you tonight. My challenge is that you would continue, because you've been doing this. You've been doing this since we set out and said, let's build a building for 300 kids. And let's build a bigger building for 600 or 700 kids. But let's continue to be courageous. And let's continue to be courageous because we deeply believe that it is possible because our God has said so. And let's be like David and to walk out onto that field and to keep going. And the big question in closing is this. When I think about this year's theme, believe it is possible, and I'm going to sound a little bit like Bill Clinton, and I'm sorry. It depends on what the meaning of the word it is. Here's what I think believe it is possible. And the challenge that I'm going to ask you to believe that it is possible that we can continue to educate 730 children every day at a level that would enable them to fly when they get out into the world. Continue to believe that. And secondly, continue to believe that regardless as to what the city or the district or anybody else decides to do, believe that it is possible that this school can continue to grow on another campus to serve not just a couple hundred more kids, but 700, 800, 900, 1,000 more kids who are knocking down the doors and who are desperate for high-quality education. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we now roll into, swiftly, the most important part of tonight's program, where you come alongside us and say, yes, it is possible. I would encourage you, I would exhort you, I would beg you to be courageous in your support and in your giving so that we can continue to serve these kids and we can open up more doors to more students. Thank you all, and God bless you.